Hello everyone, so this video is going to be covering lipid digestion, absorption, and assimilation. Now lipids are a form of energy, and a very dense one at that, but lipids can also serve as precursors to hormones, vitamins, and a bunch of other very important signaling molecules. But too much of a lipid is also a bad thing, because lipids along with cholesterol are going to be what causes cardiovascular disease. So here I have a drawing just of how we absorb lipids into our body. So most lipid absorption occurs in the small intestine. So these are the mucosal cells of the small intestine here. And lipid droplets from fat that we eat are mixed with bile salts, and bile is produced from the liver and stored in the gallbladder. And by combining with bile salts will conjugate the fat into micelles. And micelles then become soluble enough that our small intestine can absorb them into our body. Now once these bile salts have emulsified the fat and we are able to absorb the lipids into our body, it will travel through our lymphatic system as chylomicrons. And this is a chylomicron here. And as you can see, chylomicrons are sort of a bag containing triglycerides, cholesterol like we have here, and apolipoproteins. Now, apolipoproteins are sort of the packing material. They are the proteins responsible for giving the chylomicronic structure, as well as being specific for receptors found throughout the body. Now, there are apolipoproteins, which are sort of the very specific structural elements, but there are also lipoproteins. So lipoproteins are structurally very similar to chylomicrons. But lipoproteins, instead of traveling through the lymphatic system, lipoproteins are traveling through our blood vessels. There are three major types of lipoproteins. There are HDLs, or high-density lipoproteins. And high-density lipoproteins are known as the good cholesterol because they take cholesterol from the periphery and deposit it to your liver. So that way that they actually decrease your cholesterol overall. There are LDLs, or low-density lipoproteins, and these are known as the bad cholesterol. And then there are also VLDLs, which would go along with the LDLs, and it's simply very low-density lipoprotein, and these mostly have a lot more triglyceride in them as compared to the other two, which makes them lower density. Now, lipoproteins themselves are sort of just bags containing lipid, and the apolipoproteins are sort of the structural elements, which they bind all of the lipids together in the bag, and they also, like I said, have the specificity for a receptor. So they're sort of like the packing instructions. Now, I've described how VLDLs and LDLs travel throughout the body, but it's good to have a more visual representation of all of this. So this is a diagram showing how chylomicrons and lipoproteins will be traveling between our gut, our liver, and the rest of our body. Now, as we've already talked about, we absorb fat into our small intestine, and it travels through our lymphatic system as chylomicrons. Now, chylomicrons are mostly going to be containing triglycerides and cholesterol, but they will also have apolipoproteins A and B48. Now, as they continue on, the chylomicrons will actually pick up other apolipoproteins as well. So on top of the A and the B48, we're also getting apolipoprotein E and C, as well as the A and B48. And we actually get these from HDLs. So HDLs will be traveling through the body and depositing apolipoproteins onto chylomicrons. So HDLs are going to be carrying E, A, and C. Before the chylomicrons get to the liver, it's going to drop off some of its triglycerides into extrahepatic tissues, but it's going to retain all of its apolipoproteins and before it goes to the liver. Now from the liver then, we're going to be producing VLDLs. And VLDLs are going to be very similar in structure to chylomicrons, but they will have different apolipoproteins. So this will have apolipoprotein E and C, just like chylomicrons, but it will also have B100 instead of B48. And VLDLs, before they do anything else, they will immediately drop off triglycerides to heart, muscle, and adipose tissue. But they will travel on as their remnant, so I'll abbreviate this as VLDL and then a little r for remnant. It will still have apolipoproteins B100 and E. It will have lost apolipoprotein C. Now VLDLs are actually the precursors for LDLs. And these are the bad cholesterol. And at this point, the only thing in the LDL is just going to be cholesterol. It will have lost all of its triglyceride. And the only apolipoprotein involved is going to be B100. And so it will also be depositing cholesterol to extrahepatic tissues. And finally, HDL has also a role in this sort of two-loop system from lymphatic system and blood. So HDL is also going to be coming over and depositing some of its apolipoproteins, as well as taking cholesterol from VLDLs in order to help regulate it throughout the body.